Hello YouTubers, today we're finally going to talk about why I have moved out here to Bath and sort of the reasons behind the move. So we'll get straight into it before we head out and do some weights today to work on our strength, like Big Phil doing his world record in the 500 meters. Why have I moved? So I remember always thinking, it really stems from a piece of advice from my coach at university in America. When I asked him, what is the best advice you've ever had? In fact, I think I'm going to put the camera down for this one. Slightly precarious, but I think that's okay. So like I said, kind of all stems from when I spoke to, or when I asked my coach at university what was the best advice, or what was the best advice he could give me for rowing or life in general. He was a wise man, and he said to me, you have to enjoy the process. And I said that to a few other athletes that have asked me for the best piece of advice. And it's all about sort of, the idea is you train so much, especially in rowing, you train so much for essentially so little race time, so little performance time. You have to enjoy the day in, day out. You have to enjoy the grind. And after saying that to a lot of people who have asked what's the best advice you've ever had, it kind of dawned on me, am I enjoying the process? And then it was a case of, like I've mentioned in multiple vlogs, I assessed what I was doing in Henley, how I was rowing, how I was performing, what I was doing outside of rowing. And there was things that I was really happy with, things that I was like, I'm smashing it in this category of life, and I'm not so much smashing it in another category. But again, it was a case of, am I enjoying what I'm doing? Am I going home after training or after whatever it is that day and thinking either, yeah, I enjoyed that, or I've made an impact on progress, I'm making progress. And when I was training in Henley, I was there for so long, for about almost 5 years. Not that there's like a time limit for anything. For me, for 5 years, it seemed like it was time to change. But for that amount of time, it meant that even the things when I started rowing in Henley that were like, that's awesome, and I've made big chunks, made big improvements, even if I did them sort of the beginning of this season, it just didn't have that same pizzazz. And so that was sort of an assessment for me. It was like, okay, well, if I'm telling people to enjoy the process, and I think back to my university and the coach is saying, just got to enjoy the process. Well, why don't I get back to that? Why don't I find a way to find more enjoyment? And don't get me wrong, I wasn't not enjoying my rowing this past sort of half season. That's not what I'm saying. It's more of a case of, can I get more enjoyment out of what I'm doing? And that's just, I think a big part of that is, like I've mentioned about sort of, if I'm not going to the Olympics this year, then is the opportunity cost of rowing too high, and missing out things like weddings, or missing out things like funerals and all that? Is the opportunity cost too high if the Olympics is not there? And so that's when we did trials in December, I thought, okay, well, maybe it is too high. And then I thought, could I go somewhere? Could I change things? What could I change that could improve the enjoyment? And I thought to myself, okay, I think a big part of that is trying to improve outside of rowing, not just rowing itself. I mean, rowing at Leander, the coaches had me rowing the best I've ever rowed. So it wasn't a case of, well, I'm not rowing well enough, I need to move. No, not at all. It's more, like I said to the coaches at Leander, it's more in here and out and what I wanted to improve. It's a case of, like I said, I want to enjoy the process, if I had to come back to it again. trying to enjoy the process, or enjoy more of the, maybe that's a better way of saying it, enjoy more of the process. And over the past month or so, I feel like that has made a step forward in the right direction. It's a case of, okay, well, the videos I've made some changes to the videos and they have been improving in performance. I've went out and found a Great Dane walking group. Hopefully I can film that soon, so that Yam can go out and walk with fellow Great Danes. I have changed things. There's things going on behind the scenes to help improve rowing, improve the videos, improve the package. And things like going to Paris for the Indoor World Rowing Championships. It's a change, it's something different, and it's something that I may not necessarily have had the opportunity to do previously, especially not when on the GB rowing team and having a very team focus. It's very difficult to go do something individual, and that's partly, again, moving away, being a bit more individual. Okay, what do I want to do? Do I want to go on training camp somewhere? Can I find a way of going on training camp? Do I want to go to the World Indoor Championships? Do I need a break? Or even, okay, today's session is going to put me in the ground and I'm not going to be able to recover. Do I adjust that session? Things like that, where it can really affect the enjoyment of training every day, of just doing whatever you're doing, and it doesn't have to come down to training. And so I think we'll circle back about enjoying the process. If you can enjoy, obviously you can't enjoy everything. No matter what you're doing, if you're playing an instrument, if you're doing a sport, if you're in the office typing on the keyboard, if you're programming to defend against the world's cybersecurity threats, whatever it is, obviously you can't enjoy everything. But if you can maximize what you're doing, if you can maximize the enjoyment, then in theory, or at least how I see it, you can improve productivity, improve the want to go that extra mile, and to hold on to that motivation. So I've went on more of a rant than I anticipated going on this morning, and that will be it for the rant. Really just wanted to, because a lot of people have been asking, why are you going? What's behind the scenes? And that's pretty much it. I mean, I've made it into the enjoy the process, but that was it. It's a case of, I want to be able to enjoy, like say I was enjoying 60%, 70%, I want to enjoy 80%, 90%, if that makes sense. And doing things a bit differently, at least now, as this past month. Obviously it's only been a month, it has enabled a bit more enjoyment. Just like I've always said, variation can be a really big key to motivation, and that can be location, can be food, can be process, it can be outlook, it can be anything. But now that will be the rant for today finished. Let me know in the comments below if you agree with enjoying the process, or if you have other pieces of advice that you've heard that you're like, that sticks with me and that's how I operate, and we'll see if we can kind of make a Yam Squad advice gathering type idea thing. But now we're going to head to the gym and get some all over body workouts, and then we have an erg later on, which should be interesting. Oh yeah. And we've made it to fueling up time. Yam's fueling up and it's time for me to fuel up too. And so instead of cooking rice for one meal, I'm going to cook rice for all of today. So getting a kilo of rice and just That was a lot less dramatic than I anticipated, but wash that rice. Probably divide that rice into 2 to 3 meals and combine it with some veg, some chicken, some tuna, some other foods, but it is very important for me to get enough carbs in, and that is part of the carbs. But like I've spoken about, even this is keeping this enjoyable makes a difference to eating. So, and what I mean by keeping food enjoyable is keeping it easy to eat, and things like the right seasonings and the right flavors make it really a lot easier. So there's some tips that I've got there for another video about eating so much food, but now it is time to fuel up, chill out, relax until the next session, which is the good old trusty 4x4 minutes. This time it can't get confused. It could be 4 minutes by 4 or 4 by 4 minutes with increasing rates. And we'll see how we get on versus the last time we did this last week. So we have a target, got heart rate goals, got rate goals roughly, and we got a little bit of the split goals too. So fueling up, recovering, and getting ready for the next session with a little bit of enjoyment in there too. Oh yeah! Okay, we're all warmed up. Now it's time to put the workout into the monitor and then get going. So like usual, 4x4 minutes with 4 minutes rest, 5 minutes rest, 6 minutes rest. Let's get to it. That didn't go very well. Like I spoke about earlier, it's about enjoying the process. And you don't have to enjoy everything, but even the hard stuff, if you can find a way to enjoy it, you're going to be able to push that a little bit harder. So I ended up going ahead of target for first 2, and on that third one, 3 splits back, 4 splits back. So now to watch the heart rate so I'm in the right zones and see if I can get even just a little bit faster than this last one. Okay, so that is the 4x4 minutes finished. So I started off about 0.7, 0.8 ahead of the first one from the last 4 minutes, and then a good bit chunk faster in the second one, and then just halfway through the third one. But Heart rate was pushing 180, 175, 180, so it's in the right zones, even though the split was slower. So it's just one of those workouts where I've had a long week, good, really strong week of training, and it's one of those workouts where you just have to push through and finish off. And a bonus when your heart rates are in the right zone, so it's almost like you're not trying as hard, but your heart rate is there and in the right zones and working on the right things. It's not how it works, but that's how that workout went. And like I was saying in the middle of the workout about enjoying the process, this is part of my process, part of the training process. Not all 4x4 minutes, to use this exact example, are going to be faster than the last one. Not all are going to be as easy as the last one. Not every single one is going to be a walk in the park. You're going to have ones that are a struggle, you're going to have ones that are slower, you're going to have ones that are faster. And that, using the 4x4 minute example, you can apply that to anything that the YAM squad does. As long as the ultimate progression is forward, that is sort of the main thing. You can take 50 steps backwards, but if you're taking 51 steps forwards, then you are progressing in the forward direction. Whether that is, like I've talked about, in a straight line towards your goal, or if it's a meandering path that goes in loops and everything like that, either way, it's still forwards. But now, it's time to cool down, get my breath back, get my heart rate back down, fuel up, because remember, food is fuel, and then enjoy the recovery process after the training process, after a tough one. And that will be it for today's episode, YAM Squad. Again, didn't plan on having a long chat at the start, but that's how things go. Just really think that enjoying the process is a big thing, and I'm probably going to say that more and more often as we head further and further into 2020 and we approach warmer weather. Oh yeah, but won't be having a video tomorrow. Tomorrow is a day off, and I'll see you on Sunday, YAM Squad. So have a great Friday evening and Saturday. Oh yeah.